Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Welcome back to another Dragonbane related video. So I do have the physical set finally in hand here, but for the purposes of working on some of these videos, I think it'll be easier to use the PDF. Now today we are going to talk about advancing our character, how to increase our skills, how to gain new heroic abilities, how to increase our willpower points and our hit points, as well as how to gain new spells if you are a wizard. Now, this is a second attempt at this video. I did record another video where I did a combat scenario from the first encounter for the campaign, the opening scene as it is, where your party is ambushed by some goblins and a warg rider, which the warg rider was actually pretty nasty, and that's going to help us as we go through. But we are looking at character advancement here, so we are going to go to, oops, to the experience section here, which is on page 29 of the core rulebook, and we're just going to make this a little bit bigger here. So, over the course of gameplay, this is a skill-based system. There's no level advancement like in D&D or Pathfinder. It's all based on how we use our skills and what we do in the gaming session. So, during the course of gameplay, if we're rolling our skill checks and we roll either a dragon, which is a natural 1 on the d20 because you're looking to get your target number or below, in this system. It's like an old school ability check in like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons or Beckme or things like that. So that's kind of the mechanic. It's your target number or less as opposed to your target number or above. So if we're rolling a natural 1, which is a dragon, or if we fail miserably and roll a natural 20, which is a demon, you get to put a check mark in the box next to the skill's name and target number. Now, when I was doing the combat scenario, which again, if you want to see that, I can just cut that portion of the video out because I do have to look up some rules and things like that, so it might be helpful for people that are just getting into Dragonbane. If you want to see that, let me know, and I will record that, or I'll put that portion up as a separate video. But I actually rolled a dragon, a natural 1, on 2 of my attacks, actually, but you only get to get a check mark once. So I put a check mark next to swords. I just put a check mark in that little diamond there. So I got one that way. So if you roll a natural 1 or a natural 20 using a specific skill, you put a check mark in the box next to that skill. Now, at the end of the session, the Game Master also asks you a little questionnaire, and for each question that you can answer yes to, as well as like actually justify that yes, then you can put a check mark in any skill of your choice, provided it doesn't already have a check mark in it. Now, the game master does ultimately decide whether to allow you to answer yes to the question, but generally, if you can justify it, the GM should, give you the ability to get that check mark there. So the questions are: did you participate in the game session? Did you explore a new location? Did you defeat one or more dangerous adversary? Did you overcome an obstacle without using force? And did you give in to your character's weakness if that optional rule is being used? Now, I didn't give in to my character's weakness because all I did was like a combat and then assumed that the next step would be to go to the town of Outskirts and explore there a little bit. So I didn't give in to my pessimistic attitude in a way that, I'd be able to qualify. So I don't get a check mark for that. I also only did combat and a little bit of role playing, so there was no obstacle presented to me that I couldn't overcome without using force, so I don't get a check mark there either. However, I did participate in the game session because it was it was a solo thing, so I definitely participated, otherwise nothing would have happened. I did hypothetically go to town and explore there, so I did explore a new location, and the Warg Rider was actually pretty dangerous, so I did overcome him. So I'm going to count that as a check mark, especially considering that I'm a solo player, and he ended up dealing enough damage to take me down from 16 hit points to 6, with an armor rating of 8 that subtracts 8 points of damage off each and every attack that hits me. So, yeah, I always consider him a dangerous adversary. So, for check marks, I got 3 questions that I could answer yes to. So, I put a check mark in awareness. I put a check which has a 10 for the chance to succeed right now. Its skill level is at 10. I also put a check mark in persuasion, which only has a skill level of 5, so I definitely want to get that higher. And I put another check mark in spot hidden because I'd like to get that number up as well. So now that we have our check marks placed, we get to make an advancement roll, which is a d20 roll, and we're looking to get the target number or higher. So, or sorry, no, we're not looking to get the target number. We're looking to exceed the target number. So, for example, our awareness is a 10. I have to roll an 11 or higher on this d20 in order to advance that skill. If I roll a 10 or less, then it fails, and it stays at the number that is currently at. So I'm a little bit worried about my sword skill because that's at a 14. I need to roll a 15 or better on a d20 in order to actually improve that. So we're going to make our advancement rolls now. So we're going to start with awareness, which is at a 10. So I need to roll an 11 or higher. I rolled a 6, so unfortunately that one stays the same. I did not advance that skill. Now the next one is persuasion, which is only a 5. So hopefully I can roll above a 5 on a d20. And I rolled a 12. So that succeeded. So because that succeeded, I get to improve my skill level from 5, one step up, to a 6. Now, the maximum you can actually improve a skill to is 18. So a 19 or 20 on a d20 is always going to be a fail, regardless of how skilled you are. So there's always a chance that you can fail. But being able to succeed on an 18 or less on a 20-sided die is still pretty good. Now our last one that we have, so we have our spot hidden as well. So we're going to roll for that, and I rolled a 5, so that fails. And our sword is a 14, and I rolled an 11. So we only got to improve one skill, unfortunately, in this situation. But we get new chances every single game session. And honestly, you get one free one just by being there, right? So you're always going to have chances to improve your skills. Now, let's just say you also, we did that, but let's just say we have an opportunity to find a teacher to teach us as well. So the teacher has to have a skill level of 15 or higher, and it has to exceed our own. We pay him a decent amount of money, and we get to make an additional advancement roll to improve the skill immediately. So we pay the trainer, we spend the day training with that trainer. Let's just say that our trainer has an 18 or 17. Let's say they have a 17 for their sword skill. I have a 14, and I want to improve that with him. So I make the roll with him. He teaches me, and I rolled a 19 on the die, so I actually succeeded, and my sword goes up to a 15. Now, I cannot have the teacher teach me anything again until I increase my skill level through my own exploration, my own gameplay, right? So a teacher can only raise a skill level by 1. After that, I must improve the skill through experience before I can get more help from a teacher. So now, our teacher with a sword rank of 17, we can't learn from him again until I increase my swords from 15 to 16 on my own merits. But let's just say that I end up doing that. I can then go back to that same teacher again to learn swords from him. Let's just say I succeed on the roll, and now I've got a 17 in my sword skill. So at this point, I can no longer learn anything from him. Even though like 18 is the max, so I wouldn't be able to ordinarily anyway. But now that we are equal, we have the same skill level in swords. There's nothing left that he could teach me that I don't already know. So that's important to know as well. So once the teacher's rank and your rank in that skill are the same, then you can no longer use that teacher, and you would have to find someone else. Now, again, we're not going to worry about that anymore because like we've already got our character advancement rolls. We've done our learning. We can't learn from the master or from the teacher again until we improve it on our own, or we can't learn from that teacher because we're on equal footing with them now. But there's other things that we can learn or that we can improve in our character as well, including heroic abilities. Heroic abilities, for example, I have the Guardian heroic ability, which costs 2 willpower points to use. But effectively, if I'm within 2 meters of an enemy that's attacking an ally of mine that's within 2 meters of that same enemy, I can spend 2 willpower points to force that character or that NPC, that enemy, to target me instead. And with my 8 armor rating, subtracting 8 points of damage off of any attack that hits me, that's an ability that I'm going to want to use. But I only have 7 willpower points right now because my will score is pretty crappy. So I may want to improve that. I also am taking a lot of hits because of that ability and because I'm just the melee character in general. So I have 16 hit points, but I got reduced to 6 from that warg and goblins on their own, so I may want to gain more hit points as well. So how do I gain new heroic abilities, and how can I use those heroic abilities to improve my hit points and my willpower points? So whenever I increase a skill to its maximum of 18, I immediately gain a new heroic ability of my choice. And when you complete a grand or heroic deed, the game master or the adventure itself can award me a heroic ability. So for example, in the scenario here, right, once we complete the main objective, which is to find this legendary artifact, the player characters manage to retrieve the sword, right, that we're trying to find, and defeat the cultists. Each of them is rewarded with a heroic ability of their choice at the end of the game session. So that's how we gain those, right? So we either increase a skill to 18, which is likely the most common way that we're going to be gaining heroic abilities, but at certain story points, or after doing certain heroic deeds, we can also gain them. However, gaining them this way through the heroic deeds or the story point elements should be a rare event and should never be more than once per standard length adventure. But let's just say we've gained a heroic ability, but what we're looking to do now is we're looking to gain some more hit points and or willpower points, because we don't increase our attributes through normal gameplay, right? Like when you gain different age categories, it can increase or decrease certain attributes, so that can affect things. But right now, what we're looking for is just we're an adult character. We're looking to gain some more hit points or some more will points. So we gained heroic abilities, and let's just say we want to increase our willpower points. So to do that, we have to take the focused heroic ability. So there's no requirements for it. It doesn't cost any willpower points. It's just we take this heroic ability, and it increases our maximum willpower points by 2. And we can do this as many times as we gain heroic abilities for. So if we're using our guardian ability a lot, we may want to be taking this particular heroic ability whenever we gain them, because it effectively gives us an additional free use of that ability before we have to take certain rests to try to regain points. So that's really good. But let's just say we want to get hit points, right? And instead of like some of the other really good like other heroic abilities here. So we just want to gain some hit points. We have to take the robust heroic ability for that. Works the same way. We can take it an unlimited number of times for each heroic ability that we gain. But whenever we select this, we increase our hit points by 2. So we've looked at increasing our skills, we've looked at increasing our hit points and our willpower points, we've looked at gaining new heroic abilities, but let's just say we are playing a spellcaster and we want to gain more spells. How do we go about doing that? Well, here are the ways for that. We have to go to Learning Magic, which is on page 61 of the rulebook. So to learn a spell, we have to meet the prerequisites for the spell in order to learn them. So, for example, the prerequisites for the Dispel spell is just that we have any school of magic. These are kind of universal. But let's just say we want to learn the Charge spell. The prerequisite for that is that we have to have the Transfer spell already. So, we're looking to learn a new spell. The easiest way to do it, but it's going to cost us money, is that we learn a spell from a teacher that already has it. Now, it does take 1 shift to learn, so this is a teacher similar to like for a skill, but there are differences here. To learn the spell from a teacher, we have to pay him his money, spend the shift learning, which is like a 6-hour, 8-hour stretch of time, and then we get to put an advancement mark next to our school that the spell is in. Now, when that is completed, we don't make the skill roll immediately like we do normally with a teacher. Instead, we do it at the end of the session, and instead of rolling against our School of Magic, we're rolling against our intelligence with a boon. On a success, we learn the spell, otherwise we do not. Now, this is actually in our favor because we're rolling against our attribute and not the skill itself, and we get to roll 2d20 and take the better results. Now, what this means is we're rolling against our attribute. So let's just say we have a 17 intelligence. So we are looking at the 16 to 18 range here, and the base chance is 7 to learn the new spell. Now, because this is like learning or improving a skill, we're actually looking to roll an 8 or above on our d20, and we get to roll 2 of them because we had somebody help us we actually had somebody teach us the spell. So we're rolling our 2d20, we need to get an 8 or higher on one. And I rolled a 3 and a 14. So we get to learn the new spell at the end of the session. So that's the way that teachers can help us. It's the most effective way, it's the easiest way to learn a spell, and it gives you the better chance to succeed, but it's going to cost you money, right? It's not going to be cheap. Nothing in this world is free. Another way that you can learn spells is by finding spell books out in the wild. You defeat a wizard, for example, and you get to take his spell book, or you were in like some ancient ruins, maybe a mausoleum or a crypt that a wizard was buried in. He was buried with his magical grimoire. You can take that book and you can try to learn the spells from it. Now, you still need to meet the prerequisites of the spell individually, but now you're rolling a single d20 roll, and you're rolling against your languages skill. So languages, again, you're likely going to have training in that for your mage character, and using the same character that we had before with the 17 in the intelligence, the base chance to succeed is a 7, but because we're trained in the languages skill, and it is one of the wizard skills, we double the base chance number from 7 to 14. So we can learn spells from grimoires, but it's going to be harder because the target number is going to need to be higher, and we're only rolling once. So let's just say we have a 14 in languages, and we're trying to learn a spell from a grimoire that we stole, or that we not stole, but that we acquired. I'd have to roll a d20, and I rolled a natural 1, so unfortunately, this is a failure. The upside of learning a spell from grimoires as opposed to teachers is that it doesn't cost you anything. You just get to keep making the roll. It's the same thing, though. You do the roll at the end of the session. Whoops. You do the roll at the end of the session, so you're not gaining, like, you don't get to gain them immediately. You don't get to gain them during gameplay. It's at the end of each session, but it doesn't cost you anything. So let's just say the next game session you try to learn again from the book. This time I rolled a 19, so this time I actually gained the spell from the grimoire. So that's how you can learn new spells. The teacher is the easiest and most effective way because you get to roll 2d20 and take the better number, and you're rolling against your base chance to succeed for the attribute, as opposed to grimoires, which you can find, and it's free to learn spells that way, but you're rolling against the skill, which is likely going to have a much higher chance to succeed for you to try to roll against. So you're rolling against, instead of like a 7, you're rolling against a 14, meaning instead of needing an 8 on the die, needing to get an 8 on 2 d20s, you would need to get a 15 on a single d20. So it's harder, but it costs less, as opposed to it costing money, but is much more likely to result in you gaining the spell. So those are character advancement rules for the Dragonbane role-playing game. I hope that made sense. If you do have any other questions about character advancement or improvement, let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see that combat that I did as part of the first recording of the video, let me know that as well. I'll be more than happy to upload that as a separate video. Anyway, thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Until then, take care.